Can you believe we're actually here?
It's incredible, isn't it?
The first time I met her Imperial Radiance, she was wedged halfway into a maintenance hatch, swearing like a dockhand it was a Tuesday. Or at least the Equinox equivalent of a Tuesday aboard the star cruiser Vigilant Dawn, which meant everyone was already in a foul mood. Tuesdays were when the recycling systems got purged, the water turned brown, and morale went straight out the airlock, so when the Empress herself decided to inspect the lower decks, we were told to scrub everything till it gleamed. The crew polished the walls, waxed the floors, even perfumed the air scrubbers. We were told not to look at her unless she addressed us first. We were told to bow, smile, and for the love of the void, do not touch the Empress. But none of those rules accounted for the possibility that she'd crawl into a duct and get stuck. I was on vent duty when I heard the sound, a muffled grunt. Then a string of creative curses echoing from Deck 7's primary coolant shaft. At first, I thought it was one of the engineers. Then I heard her voice imperious, crisp, and thoroughly annoyed. "Is anyone out there?" She barked. "Get me out of this blasted contraption." I peered into the hatch. Two polished boots, trimmed in gold thread, kicked helplessly in the air. A long crimson cape had bunched up around her waist, and her voice definitely the Empress's echoed deeper within the metal belly of the ship. Now, I'm not a religious person, but I do believe the universe has a wicked sense of humor. I stifled a laugh and cleared my throat. "Your Radiance?" Her legs stopped flailing. "Who is that?" "Technician 3rd Class Mira Chen, ma'am." "Technician Chen," she said through clenched teeth. "You appear to have discovered your sovereign in a somewhat indignified situation. Kindly extract me at once." "Yes, ma'am." Crouched beside the hatch, biting my lip. "If I may ask, Your Radiance, how did you end up in there?" Pause. "Then, I was inspecting your ship's structural integrity, personally. The schematic suggested a potential breach point in this access corridor. Unfortunately, these hatches are narrower than anticipated." I blinked. The Empress of 12 Sectors was crawling through coolant vents because she didn't trust her engineers. "Typical, hold still," I said, pulling off my gloves. "You're caught on a conduit lip. I'll try to wiggle you free." Her voice turned sharp. "You will what?" "Relax. I'm a professional," I said. Lying through my teeth, the truth was, I'd spent the last 3 months fixing broken gravity regulators and leaky oxygen valves, not rescuing monarchs from ventilation shafts. But I figured, how hard could it be? I reached in, grabbed her by the waist well, the royal midsection, technically, and tugged. She yelped, something metallic clanged, and my elbow hit the bulkhead. "Stop. Stop, stop, stop," she cried. "You're pulling my hair?" "I'm trying not to," I said, trying very hard not to laugh. Her voice went icy. "Do you find this amusing, Technician?" "No, Your Radiance," I said solemnly. "Not at all. It was absolutely hilarious." We tried again. I pushed from one end, she wriggled from the other, and the ship made a groaning noise that didn't sound healthy. Finally, with a loud schlunk, the Empress popped out of the hatch and landed on top of me in a swirl of velvet and fury. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. Her crown was crooked. My nose was bleeding. Somewhere in the distance, the coolant pumps hummed like they were laughing too. Then she sat up, glaring daggers. "You will speak of this to no one." "Yes, Your Radiance," I said, trying not to grin, but my resolve crumbled when she stood up and I saw the back of her dress torn straight down the middle, revealing a scandalous amount of royal undergarments. That's when I lost it. I started laughing. Not a polite chuckle, no. This was the kind of laugh that takes over your whole body. The kind that makes you forget you're committing career suicide in front of the most powerful woman in the galaxy. To her credit, the Empress didn't vaporize me on the spot. She just crossed her arms, cheeks flushing crimson, and muttered something about insubordinate cretins. When I finally stopped laughing, I wiped my eyes and offered her my jacket. "Here, you might want to cover that." She snatched it from my hands. "This is completely unacceptable." "Agree," I said. "Maintenance hatches really ought to come with a warning label. It earned me another glare butt this time. I could have sworn I saw the corner of her mouth twitch. You'd think that'd be the end of it, right? A humiliating royal mishap quickly forgotten. Nope. The next day, got an official summons. 2 armored guards escorted me to the Empress's private observation deck, a place I had no business being. The floor was polished obsidian. The walls transparent alloy showing a panorama of stars. The Empress stood by the window, her reflection a shimmering silhouette against the cosmos. "Technician Chen," she said without turning. "You laughed at me." I swallowed. "Yes, your radiance." "Why?" That was not the question I'd expected, because I said slowly, "You were stuck in a hole, yelling at the universe just like the rest of us. It was human." She turned then, and for the first time I saw her really smile, not the poised diplomatic kind, but something weary and real. "You are bold," she said. "Most would have begged forgiveness, or blamed someone else." "With respect," I said, "most people aren't usually rescuing emperors from air ducts." She laughed softly, but it counted. "Very well," she said. "You'll accompany me on inspection rounds from now on. Clearly, I require a minder." I blinked. "Wait, here promoting me?" She raised an eyebrow. "Would you prefer I demote you?" "No, ma'am. Promotion sounds great." Over the following weeks, we developed an unlikely partnership. I followed her through the labyrinthine guts of the Vigilant Dawn, pointing out maintenance flaws she'd never deigned to notice. She asked sharp questions, sometimes about engineering, sometimes about life in the lower decks. At first, I thought she was gathering intelligence, but gradually I realized she was curious. She wanted to understand the ship, the crew, even the endless humming machinery that kept her empire alive, and she never once mentioned the hatch incident. Until one evening, we were alone in the reactor core, bathed in the blue glow of plasma conduits. She was studying the energy readouts with her usual intensity when she said, "Do you still find the memory of my predicament amusing?" "Absolutely," I said. "Funniest thing that's ever happened on this ship," her mouth quirked. "You risk much by saying so." "Worth it." She studied me for a long moment, then said quietly, "It's been years since anyone laughed in my presence. Not out of fear." That caught me off guard. "Seems like a lonely way to rule." "It is," she said simply. For a moment, the Empress looked less like a ruler and more like a persona, tired, isolated woman carrying a galaxy on her shoulders. "Maybe," I said. "You should get stuck in vents more often." She actually laughed this time, head tilted back, eyes shining. The sound echoed through the reactor chamber. "Light and unguarded, you're impossible." "Technician Chen, I've been told that," I said. Then, of course, everything went to hell. 3 days later, the Vigilant Dawn came under pirate attack. Deck 6 was breached, communications were down, and half the escape pods were offline. Amid the chaos, I found the Empress in the command hub, cool as ice, directing countermeasures with surgical precision. "Chen," she shouted. "Status on the coolant reserves. Stable, but the primary valves are jammed." "Then, unjam them." Easier said than done. I sprinted through smoke-filled corridors, sparks raining down, alarms blaring. When I reached the coolant bay, I nearly groaned. The only access point, the only way to manually override the valves, was through a narrow maintenance hatch. I stared at it, then started laughing, of course. Of course it had to be a hatch. I crawled in, praying I wouldn't get stuck myself. The heat was brutal, but I managed to crank the manual lever just before the system overheated. The coolant surged back to life, the ship's core stabilized, and the lights flickered back on. When I climbed out, covered in grime, the Empress was waiting. "You did it," she said, eyes wide with something dangerously close to admiration. I grinned. "Guess I learned from the best." The aftermath, the pirates were driven off, the ship repaired, and the crew hailed the Empress as a hero. But she made a point in her official address to commend Technician Third Class Myra Chen, whose unorthodox humor and unshakable resolve prevented a reactor collapse. I nearly fainted. Afterward, she found me in the corridor. "You've become somewhat of a legend," she said. The crew are calling you the Hatch Whisperer, I groaned. Please tell them to stop. On the contrary, she said. Smiling, I rather like it. Then she leaned in and whispered. Between us, Genevieve ordered that particular maintenance hatch sealed permanently. One can only endure so much humiliation. Good call, I said. Wouldn't want a repeat performance? She tilted her head. And if I did find myself stuck again? I grinned. Then, your radiance, I'd save you, again, probably laughed just as hard. Her laughter followed me all the way down the corridor, light and genuine, echoing like a promise.